French voters go to the polls to choose who will control their National Assembly in the second round of parliamentary elections. The end of the war in Ukraine could take years, the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has warned, adding we must not stop supporting Ukraine. Thousands of hectares of forest have been consumed by pre-summer wildfires in Spain, as temperatures reach 10 degrees higher than normal in the region.
The French head to the polls today to cast their vote in the second round of its parliamentary elections. French President Emmanuel Macron's Ensemble movement will be hoping to fend off the surging challenge from the newly formed left-wing movement NUPES, led by Jean-Luc Mélenchon. The left wave is one of concern for Macron, with Ensemble only collecting 21,000 more votes than NUPES in last week's first round, which saw a record abstention rate, with many French people disenchanted with the political establishment.
The French are not very mobilized. They are perhaps annoyed by everything that happens, dissatisfied with the people in power. I don't know. Me, I voted both times.
NUPES' success in the first round is a real headache for Macron, who looks less likely to retain a majority in government and which could curtail his plans to push through his election promises. Early voting rates suggest turnout is slightly higher than last week's first round, with midday turnout figures standing at 19%. Polling closes at 8 p.m. French time, with an exit poll expected shortly after.
The end of the war in Ukraine could take years, according to the NATO Secretary General. Jens Stoltenberg also said we must not stop supporting Ukraine, as the war nears its fourth month. On the front line, Ukrainian troops speak of fatigue among the Russian army. We can say that in the last week there has been a stabilization of the front line, in which the enemy is exhausted and cannot continue offensive operations. It also cannot continue the offensive actions due to professional and high-quality work of our artillery. 5 civilians were killed and 12 injured in the eastern separatist city of Donetsk. Pro-Russian separatists say Ukrainian forces were shelling the region for a third day in a row, and that residents were called to stay in shelters. Donetsk has been partially controlled by Russian separatists since 2014. In Kharkiv, the Ukrainian military said they have found 103 bodies in territories deoccupied by Russian forces. The bodies, believed to be of Russian troops, are to be kept at a storage facility in order to be exchanged with the bodies of Ukrainian soldiers. Over in the southern port city of Odessa, President Volodymyr Zelensky presented state awards to border guards as he visited troops on Saturday, saying he wanted to thank them for the heroic work they have been doing. Thousands of hectares of forest have been consumed by pre-summer wildfires in Spain. More than 1,700 people had to be evacuated from a number of different villages. In Moura, local authorities said an area equivalent to 50,000 football fields turned to ashes. Officials said the blaze in the Sierra de Culebra mountains near the Portuguese border started Wednesday during a dry electric storm. Temperatures of more than 40 degrees Celsius have been recorded in many parts of Spain throughout the week, as the World Meteorological Organization warns temperatures have been 10 degrees above normal in the region.
I
think this heatwave is very alarming. We can see climate change's consequences. We must find solutions for the future. We can't keep on like this. In a country associated with alpine weather and snowy peaks, Switzerland is also sweltering in this early heatwave, with temperatures well above 30 degrees Celsius. The Swiss National Weather Service found differences in temperatures between cities and the countryside were as high as 6 degrees. In Germany, 36.4 degrees Celsius was measured in the Upper Rhine region. Hot weather alerts were kept in place in the Heinland-Palatinate as well as the Baden-Württemberg regions. Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro led thousands of motorcyclists on a campaign ride through the Amazonian city of Manaus without wearing a helmet. The visit happens days after the recovery of the remains of British journalist Tom Phillips and indigenous expert Bruno Pereira from the Amazon forest. Bolsonaro has been criticized for failing to show compassion in the case.
A passenger ferry service from Greece to Cyprus set sail again on Sunday for the first time in 21 years. Over 170 passengers left the Greek port of Piraeus on the MV Dalila, bound for Limassol on the 30-hour crossing. This summer, the Cypriot-flagged ferry is scheduled to sail over 20 times both ways. It will be able to take over 400 passengers. Finally, the umbilical cord that united Cyprus with Greece is re-established in a more efficient way, with more modern ships. But most importantly, the opportunity is finally given to the many citizens who wanted it so much. Although it's not expected to be profitable and will have to receive subsidies, it's already had over 6,000 bookings, double what was expected. The ship has a sleeping capacity of 290 in its cabins, and for entertainment there are bars, cafes, restaurants and a casino. Meanwhile, Israel's Minister of Transport, Merav Michaeli, has said he'd be interested in the service also docking at an Israeli port. The service will now run until September 16th.
Portuguese artist Ana Moura, who's performed alongside Prince and the Rolling Stones, is to release her first original album in 6 years this September. The 42-year-old singer, who recently became a mother, told Euronews her new record was inspired by her newborn daughter and her own Angolan roots.
The album is being released at the end of the summer in September, but the name hasn't been revealed yet. It's a very special record for me, that's why it has taken a long time to come out. In the meantime, I had a child and wanted to wait to have more availability for when the record is released.
Moura said this track, about her baby daughter, was shaped by the Angolan music that she listened to as a child.
I grew up surrounded by Angolan music. My parents always listened to a lot of music at home. They played and sang. And I grew up in this very musical environment with various genres being played.
Performing here at Lyon's Nuit de Fourvière, Ana Moura says her new work is influenced by Portugal's traditional fado, a melancholic folk style.
The track has both fado and minho elements because I also have roots there as my father is from the north of Portugal. But then you have jacaranda and akara vemim, which have the rhythm and sensuality of Angola's kizomba.
And this new track is a tribute to a good friend who passed away in 2016.
I wrote Jacaranda for Prince. It's a tribute to him. Prince loved my music, but he said, "Your music just needs a beat." And that's how the beat actually came into this piece. I think he would be very happy.
Entretanto, fiz este beat e eu acho que ele iria ficar mesmo muito contente.
Ana Moura is currently on tour and she'll be playing in Spain, France and Hungary throughout the summer.